garbage in the background here. Got a new camera angle, so I'm trying to get everything set up appropriately. It's great to see you all. How was your weekend? Welcome to the Normal America Show. We'll talk about some criticisms of me today. Maybe a little audience commentary. That's always fun, right? Some news of the week. The joy being gone. Should be good stuff. We'll try to go about an hour. Supposed to be home Wednesday. Not sure I'll be able to stream Wednesday evenings. May take a bit of a break Wednesday evening, but we'll see. That will be to be determined. The reason for that is I think I'm going to get home late. I got some stuff to take care of. Now, what is this guy? I don't know. Testing my new light thing I got here. This, I got different light settings. I go boom. Oh. I think I like that one. We can up the intensity so it hurts my eyeballs. Ah! Or lower it a bit. This sort of stuff excites me. By the way, thank all of you recently have donated to me. I got some new equipment coming, a new microphone coming, and a new camera coming for my home setup. Can I make it look like I'm at a rave? I don't think this has color options, unfortunately. So at home, I think I can. So my editor, Black Elk, tells me that my video quality sucks when I'm live streaming. It's too grainy. So I bought a new camera. We'll see if that affects it. I've also been told it might be my lighting. So I may have to tinker with the lighting at my home office. Ironically, he says my camera is better here when I'm using my phone to stream. So that lets you know how well I'm doing with my setup at home. And then in addition to that, I know people have said that I have a problem with my microphone. I think the problem with that is mostly I'm a very much fluid talker, moving all around, blah, blah. And so I'll get close to the mic and then I'll back up from the mic, particularly when I'm in a debate or something. I bought a Shure microphone that my friend Aircraft Sparky uses. He says it's a good one. So we're going to try to hook that up and see what I could do, tinker with some sound settings, hopefully have that all set up Thursday. In addition to that, I got a new monitor. I'm considering buying a high-end lapel mic, which may affect my moving back and forth. Move away from the mic to breathe. I can't help it. I'm a heavy breather. When you talk as much as me, I guess you just breathe heavy. Plus, being a fat, out of shape, guy probably doesn't help things. What can you do? Lose weight? Exercise? Pfft, don't have time for that. We're celebrating until today because the joy is gone. The joy is gone today. So, but I'm going to get on top of that. We got some stuff coming up. Me and Black Elk got some ideas for some new shows that we're going to be doing, debate reviews, collaborations with people. So I think it's going to be exciting. I think we're going in a positive direction here. Plus, I'm going to have my 10,000 sub special. So all that will be coming up in the works here a month or so from now. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully this new equipment will help increase the quality of the content on you all's end. So what do you want to talk about today? Joy Reid. I figured we'll talk about some criticisms of me. We'll talk about Joy Reid, talk about Dan Bongino, how the Trump administration is going in general. I think all of that's on the table here. Let's talk about Joy Reid first, and for my left-wingers that watch me, because you want to see what an actual good-looking, masculine, sensible guy has to say. I know there are a handful of people that are Democrats that watch me. I wish there were more. But I'll throw you a bone on something that maybe that's worth criticizing Republicans and people like me for. Something that I struggle with because of my weird... I'm not diagnosed bipolar or anything like that, but I am a weird, personification of the two wolves inside me. Like, part of me just wants to go ham on people and make fun of them. Then the other part of me feels really bad for that because I'm sort of like a pretty nice person in real life. I don't know. I don't know what it is about me. Sometimes flip of the coin, what mood I'm in, I guess. Really comes out in interactions with people, debates and what have. I rarely think I go over the line or anything, but anyways, let's see what we got here. Let's start with the Joy Reid thing, because I think that'll segue me into the topic that maybe Democrats might agree with me more than my traditional audience, though not really, because I have a different spin on it. But so Joy Reid lost her show at MSNBC today. I take no joy in anyone losing a job, which is what we'll talk about here in a minute. But some of these propagandists in the mainstream media, you have to see the writing on the wall, and that they're sort of artificially propped up. And as audiences continue to crumble, they're not really making a change, which will inevitably lead to them losing viewerships, and unless there's something artificially keeping them afloat, them losing their jobs. That's sort of, I think, what happened with Joy Reid. Of all the people on MSNBC and sort of the cable propaganda networks, I think she's amongst the worst for just strict race-baiting, garbage propaganda. And it's hard to have any sympathy with a person who so many times has mocked people for crying, for other things like that. For example, I put a little YouTube short up where she's criticizing Rittenhouse and Kavanaugh for crying white male tears. Then she puts her video up today crying about losing her show. It's hard to feel sympathy. At that point, I just don't feel bad. I'm sorry. I'll feel bad for the woman who is Joy Reid, who's the the IRS worker that gets fired, because that's someone who may be struggling afterwards. Even if I think that job deserved to be let go, even if I think that woman is contemptible, you can understand how that's someone who might be struggling. Someone involved in the entertainment business or the propagandist media business. I'm sorry. Joy Reid's made millions. Much like my debate with Connor the other day, Joy Reid's made homophobic slurs. I really don't care. Don't get it twisted. Anyone can call me any homophobic slur they want. I'm not going to act like I've never used slurs like that. Perfectly fine by me, right? But I feel that way universally. I'm not a snowflake that's going to demand people get canceled like so many of the left and the Democratic Party have. So it's ironic when you see these figures that are in the Democratic Party that have engaged in the same sort of behavior that they would cancel you for, but all of a sudden they get a free pass, whether it be Howard Stern or Jimmy Kimmel with their blackface or Justin Trudeau, or homophobic slurs or homophobic criticisms coming from people like Mehdi Hassan or Joy Reid. All seems to be forgiven if you have the right political outlook on life, which just goes to show all of their criticisms on these sorts of things are fake. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you remember when a bunch of posts came up from like early 2000s of Joy Reid on some blog post that she was doing, and it basically had many criticisms of gay folk, which you may agree with her criticisms, you may disagree, whatever. The problem is she's playing this sort of cultural Marxist outrage merchant now. So it's like, oh boy, it's one thing if you're, some right-winger and you said some of those things years ago. It's like, all right, whatever. Because they're not the ones that are like grasping their pearls over homophobic slurs. That's the Democratic Party. Okay? So remember what her excuse was? She was hacked. So if you remember, she alleged that somehow hackers knew she would become famous in the future. And so as she's doing these blog posts, they are hacking her, or somehow they hacked her old post and changed them, but somehow were able to properly date them. And she claimed that the FBI had opened up an investigation. So I know that all of you out there are like, it's time to release the Epstein files. It's time to release the JFK files. I think it's time to release the Joy Reid files. Someone get in the horn with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. We need to find out who were these dirty hackers that hacked Joy Reid's blog in circa 2004. Who was it? No doubt the FBI's been diligently working on that in between going after January 6ers and pro-life people and parents at school board meetings. Right? So I'll be interested to see what the files are. Hopefully there's a big press conference. Trump comes out with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino's like, we'd like to present to you all of the evidence the FBI has accumulated of the hack of Joy Reid. Joking aside, she does represent exactly not only what's wrong with the Democratic Party and so many broad swaths of the left in this country, but also with our propagandist media. I have no sympathy for that as an institution. And it's not just them. For years, the largest viewed video on my YouTube channel had like 4,000 views. And it was a criticism I had of Fox News, where they wrote this article about this guy that was, I think he was played one of the kids on The Cosby Show. And they were like, oh, he's working at Trader Joe's. What a downfall. And I was like, what's the shame of working at Trader Joe's? I mean, this guy was a celebrity, has family, and decide he's going to do what he can to provide for them instead of becoming some grifter like so many celebrities. Wow, he ought to be ashamed for working hard for his family. Or is it that the idea of working at Trader Joe's or some grocery store like that, that's something to be ashamed of? And what I said then, and I said this about Fox News, certainly applies to the rest of the mainstream media outlets. I think that working for a mainstream media outlet's shameful. That's what I think shameful. Joy Reid would be less shamed working at Trader Joe's. That's what I think. Pick up an application, Joy. Put in an actual real day's work. How about that? Now, it's interesting because I think this gets into a broader discussion that you're seeing this narrative that's being pushed by all these Democrats about how many people are being laid off that work for the federal government. First off, I don't take anyone seriously who's going to, like you see 60 Minutes and all these outlets, they're going to bring on these women. I guess and men, mostly it's been women I've seen though. They're like, I lost my job, it's terrible. And the implication's like, look how heartless the Trump administration and Doge is. Those people celebrated when people were being fired for refusing to take vaccines. They celebrated when the Biden administration was basically admitting they wanted to make people's lives hell that refused to take those vaccines. They celebrated Biden's blatantly unconstitutional OSHA mandate. They didn't care. They didn't care when people like I work with in the healthcare fields' lives were ruined because the most important thing in their life was connection to their friends and families, and they weren't able to go visit those people. Didn't care at all. So, my body, my choice crowd thinks, ha ha ha, fire people for not taking the experimental vaccine that we want. But, oh my goodness, if you fire someone because they're in a taxpayer-funded job that's wasteful and it's not doing anything, oh, that's tragic. Government jobs aren't really adding to the economy in general. They're not creating. I'm not saying that there's no use for any government job. But when you go back and you look at Biden's economy, how many of the jobs created were government jobs? Huge portions of them. Those are jobs that we're all paying for. The debt is out of control. It's out of control. I'm sorry. The government should be as small as possible, as efficient as possible, because we're paying for it. And the truth is, there's so much fraud and bloat in our federal government. Now, having said that, I do feel bad for anyone who legitimately is trying to work and lost their job. If you were someone who was just punching in and collecting a paycheck, working from home, and literally only working 5 hours a week, I don't care. But there's a lot of people who maybe they're in a job that we would consider worthless. Like, let's say they're a DEI officer. Objectively, I think that's a job that makes the world worse. But someone filled out an application and did that job, and if they're working, even if I think it's a garbage, bad job, I do feel bad. Just like I feel bad for the person who's crying that their mother was deported, or the person that got deported who was here illegally. I'm not heartless. I'm not going to sit here and laugh at that. But unfortunately, the problems have gotten so severe that we have no choice but to act like that now. If I owned a company and my company was underwater and I had to fire people, I'd feel terrible for the people I'm firing. But what's the alternative? Never fire anyone until the whole company goes belly up and is completely ruined? Is that what we really are suggesting as a country? The truth was, as I told you, before Trump was sworn in, and we've known this for years, to actually do what's necessary when it comes to shrinking the size of the government, when it comes to deportations, there will be stories that pull on people's heartstrings. That's because the problem was intentionally allowed to get so bad. Government waste and fraud was allowed to get so big. Immigration was exploited so bad that it became such a massive problem. You have to be strong. You could have a big heart and say, I do feel bad for these individuals, but it is for the greater good of the most important thing, which is our country. It's most important in this sense. Our government exists for the citizens of this country. That's what America first means. That's what Make America Great Again means. If you're going to, I should not be allowed to take your tax dollars and spend it on my little pet projects and spend it on benefiting people around the world. If I want to help people around the world, then I could choose to do that with my money that I earn. It's different if you're taking money you tax from me and you're helping citizens of this country. We could argue about what level of that we should be doing. But the idea that this is just welfare, that we have needless government jobs, and therefore we can never fire anyone, is ludicrous. Now you'll notice that you don't see the Democrats really speaking up about the fraud and waste. I saw, what's the name? It's a woman who's getting pretty big, black lady. Seems like she's going to be the new, like, sort of AOC. I can't recall her name right now. But I think she was elected here recently. And I saw she was on, I think with Charlemagne the God, and talking about Doge and how bad it was. Yeah, Jasmine Crockett, that's it. And she's complaining about it, and Charlemagne's like, yeah, well, there is a lot of waste. And she's like, no, and he's like, then how did we get in so much debt? And she's like, well, because wages. What? They just pretend, they're like, there's this like, everybody says like, yeah, there's waste in government. But as soon as you do something to try to solve it, it's like, no, you can't do that. Everything's important. You can't cut even one job. Nope, because that's a person, and you can't do that to that person. Okay, I know people that could use cushy government jobs that basically do nothing. Why don't we hire them? It's the same with all of this money. Oh, well, we had to send money for Politico Plus or whatever. That money, Congress has already divvied out that money. Okay, if we're not allowed to freeze that money, then let's give it to right-wing media groups. Let's give it to right-wing NGOs. Fair enough? Let's give it to pro-life NGOs. Christian NGOs that are really Christian. How about that? Border security NGOs. Sound good? Pro-Second Amendment NGOs. Right? Right-wing media outlets. Right-wing streamers. How about they get the money? Why should we have to finance people that hate us? End goals that hate us. End goals that are antithetical to what we believe. But that's what we have to do. And when we complain about it, they say, but do you want this lady to lose her job? You want to stop? Someone will get AIDS in Ghana because of you. I think it was Tucker Carlson I saw say, where are all the African leaders speaking up about how their countries are about to fall apart because USAID is no longer giving them money? Where are they? Quite interesting, isn't it? So yes, you can have this simultaneous belief that, and I understand some people are going to disagree with me. They're going to say, I don't care, laugh at those people. They would have laughed at us. Learn to code, they said. I get it. But I'm not really relishing in people losing their jobs. I'm relishing in we're finally shrinking the size of government, or at least claiming to be. Dan Bongino appointed deputy director of the FBI. Thank you so much, Speaker of the Dead, for the membership. Thoughts on the Panama Canal? I've talked about this before. There's nothing that's really changed on it, right? I don't like the rhetorics, particularly of Trump threatening action. If it's a negotiating tactic, so be it. I don't know what to believe about the canal. It seems that there's credible evidence that China's exerted their influence, which would drastically hurt the United States and other Western nations that use that canal as a shipping lane. It also, I've read even before this controversy that the canal is being mismanaged brutally, which is causing all sorts of ships to be backed up, which is again affecting Western shipping. So should the United States step in and try to facilitate that being better? And does that mean that we try to purchase it for a correct amount? Maybe. Should we get assurances that China is not going to exert influence because it would credibly harm the United States and our Western allies? Maybe. But I'm not a particular fan of the rhetoric. Hopefully there's a mutually beneficial solution for both Panama and the United States. Yeah, maybe it's building another canal through the Gulf of America. Maybe we'll go. Dan Bongino. Most hurt by Dan Bongino are the Democrats and my friend John Burke. I like John. I do. John really dislikes Trump. I think he's been trying to call balls and strikes within his framework of bias. I also have a framework of bias, so I'm not uniquely criticizing John for that. But obviously, he's someone who has had some bad run-ins with a group of Trump supporters. I think that sort of helps color his atmosphere. And I think he correctly points out some of the things that's ridiculous with Trump's previous and current administration, which is needed. I think we need right-wingers that are pointing that stuff out. People like John, I'll trust, as opposed to people like Connor that are grifters that get paid by Progressive Victory PAC. See the difference there? But John and Dan Bongino had a big spat on X and Dan blocked him. So I understand John being upset on that whole thing. To the greater context of what's going on, Dan Bongino has talked about the corruption at the FBI from things like January 6th investigations, including the pipe bomb, the Russiagate investigations, the targeting of parents at school board meetings. He's talked about corruption of congressmen like Adam Schiff. That is exactly the type of person that we need working with Kash Patel. People that have been calling out this obvious corruption and bias for years. And so I celebrate the appointment of Dan Bongino, and I think he'll do a fantastic job. I do. Now, what I don't want from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is just to willy-nilly, illegally arrest everyone that's a Democrat or everyone that's in the FBI. That's not what I want. What I do want them to do is to get credible accusations of fraud and bias, investigate it, and then hold people to account. By both being transparent to the American public about the corruption and bias that's occurred, by releasing the evidence, not their interpretation of the evidence, but the evidence as straightforward and unredacted as possible, and then pursuing criminal, civil, and professional consequences. That's what I would like to see occur. Make no mistake about it. It is basically do or die for the Trump administration at this point. If they do not ferret out this corruption, every single one of them will be prosecuted in a future Democrat administration. That's where we're at now. The Democrats broke the glass on we're going to weaponize the FBI, we're going to weaponize lawfare, we're going to have attorney generals around the country aggressively pursue the other party that we don't like. And so unless you ferret out that corruption, it will be used again, only magnified. The circumstances of Trump winning in 2016 were insane. The circumstances of him winning in 2024, also insane. I mean, think what it took. The Democrats being so confident and inept that they tried to rerun Joe Biden, who was a human vegetable, him blowing up on national television, them not knowing what to do because they basically picked a DEI pick for VP. They couldn't skip over her, but she's terrible and no one likes her. She's just a chameleon, a political chameleon that couldn't articulate to the American people what she stood for, what her policies would be. Elon Musk bought Twitter that allowed free speech to occur where people could actually share their beliefs. All of that confluence of things had to occur, in addition to just the terrible mismanagement of the country and foreign policy that we saw from the people running the Biden administration, from the Afghanistan withdrawal to the conflict that occurred in Israel-Palestine that they were unable to do anything about except finance both sides, to the Ukraine conflict that they just sent Ukrainian people to the meat grinder, sabotaged any potential peace deals, probably co-signed on, in fact, I'll go further than probably, almost definitely co-signed on to the Nord Stream pipeline being bombed, which harmed not only environmental harm, but also harmed our European allies and the price of fuel. Massive inflation back home as they misprioritized everything. Hubris on issues like the trans issues, and hubris on the border, which they thought they could continue their plans of being open border globalists, but enough people got fed up with it. There's no guarantee that those circumstances occur again in 2028 or 2032. And so if you don't ouster the corruption now, and the poison that exists in almost every one of these executive institutions, the IRS, the EPA, the Department of Education, the CIA, USAID, the FBI, they will all be weaponized as soon as Trump leaves. That's the truth. So any thoughts of, well, we'll just show a little of the corruption and then we'll move on, is a huge mistake. Yes, things both legitimate and illegitimate will come up. Legitimate things like a natural disaster, a terror attack. Yeah, it's good that they're rehiring certain people that were fired. I saw you ask that question before. There could be illegitimate things. There will be, if these people are as corrupt as we're thinking, they're not going to go quietly. It's going to be a long, difficult, drawn out through lawfare, through biased judges, biased lawyers. Oh yeah, real quick on the Joy Reid thing. I'm hearing that they're replacing her time slot with Simone Sanders. It's just as bad, so maybe a little more intelligent. So they have to, just like Democrats are doing, if you come at the king, you better not miss. The same's true of the opposite end. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't take this time to talk about something I've been talking about for years. Ever since Crossfire Hurricane. When we saw Peter Strzok talking to his lover Lisa Page about an insurance policy, we must stop Trump. We saw Kevin Kleinsmith, the lawyer that criminally altered evidence to try to obtain a FISA warrant on Trump's team, texting his buddies #resist. When you saw how much, obviously, the top brass at the FBI hated Trump, including James Comey. When you saw the disparate outcomes of how they were going aggressively as possible against Trump and everyone connected to Trump, but as easy as possible as Hillary and everyone connected to her. When you saw NARA immediately going after Trump, not caring about any of the Democrat people that had classified information. When you saw Mueller's team, it was made up of 17 lawyers, the overwhelming majority of them being Democrat donors, including at least one that previously had worked for the Clinton Foundation. What I said was, someday the shoe will be on the other foot. Someday there'll be an investigation from the FBI or some other body, and the people that are doing the investigating will be considered biased by the Democrats. And they will scream and they will gnash their teeth. I don't care. I don't care at all. Because Patel wrote a children's book that said that Trump's like a king. I don't care. You guys had no problem with almost everyone at the top of the FBI hating Trump to the point where they were talking about insurance policies to stop him. They had no problem. You had no problem with Mueller's team being composed of people that had worked with the Clinton Foundation. You did not care. So you've set the standard. That's it. That's the standard. But Rob, now's the time to reverse that standard, says the centrist. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in the person that said nothing about the obvious bias against Trump at all of these institutions, now demanding that we have totally non-biased people. Oh, by the way, and don't look into the corruption of the previous people. Whatever you do, don't do that. Don't do that at all. It's time to let bygones be bygones. And then, of course, if Democrats win 4 years from now, the same people telling you that will have no problem when the lawfare picks up just like that and they start investigating everyone surrounding Trump again. Oh, shucks, oh well, he's a criminal, he's guilty, he's corrupt, what can you do? And then if it alternates, they'll go, now's the time to pull back on the political prosecutions. It will not stop until the people that have weaponized these institutions face punishment. Until they face significant consequence. And no, James Comey is not facing consequences. Getting sweetheart book deals. Neither is Peter Strzok. None of these people. Not even Kevin Kleinsmith, who got a slap on the wrist, lost his license to practice law for 1 year, and now is right back at it. The standards were set. But Rob, what about Trump firing all these generals? Obama fired 167. Military brass. Because he said they weren't working with his engagement of what he wanted his policy to be. That's the standard. Sorry. We have this monolithic bureaucracy that runs everything. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democratic administration. That's basically running the show. They sabotaged Trump in his first 4 years. Then Trump wins, and the argument is, but you have to leave all those people there. You can't touch them. You gotta leave them stay there. Now's not the time to be vindictive. It's not vindictiveness. It's adhering to what the Constitution was all about. It was not about unelected bureaucrats running this country, so much so that the head of the opposition in the legislative branch, Chuck Schumer, said in 2016 that you couldn't even criticize the FBI or they would come at you. That was not the vision that the Founding Fathers intended. Furthermore, you don't even have to look back to the Founding Fathers. Is that what we want? Rogue bureaucrats that are running the show whose names you don't even know? That stay long after elected officials are gone? Perfectly fine, says the Democrat and the centrist. Whatever you do, don't look into them. Don't fire them. I'm sorry, I don't give a shit what you think. The standards have been set. They weren't my standards. My standard would have been that we never opened the book on lawfare of illegally spying on presidential campaigns, treating them with such disparate treatment in the first place. I wouldn't have wanted people talking about insurance policies to stop one particular political candidate to be the top person on the ground in both the Trump and the Hillary investigation. But Democrats said that was fine. I wouldn't have wanted the one-sided publicity show that was the January 6th committee. I don't like that. But Democrats said that's fine. Okay. That's the standard. It's the same with cancel culture. I sat there for years and said, nope, don't engage in it. I still don't engage in it. But it was never going to stop until the other side started playing ball the same way. That's the only way it'll stop. If one side says, we can with impunity cancel anyone we want, we could pressure companies to do what we want, and the other side will say, no, we're beyond that. What do you think? How's that game play out if you play it thousands of times? The side that's willing to go that extra mile is going to end up winning. Cooler heads will prevail. They didn't. Do I think the right could go too far? Yeah. Do I think Trump's team could go too far? Yeah. Will I call it out when I see that occurring? Absolutely. But not to these bad faith people that were perfectly fine with the exact or worse levels of corruption when their side was in charge. I don't care what those people think. I see people saying, my videos are being demonetized. My videos are being shadow banned. Elon Musk. Rah. You didn't care when it was me. You didn't care at all when it was me and thousands like me. You didn't care. It was for the good of the country. It wasn't that big of a deal. But now, boy, oh boy. I'm glad to see Bernie's making a comeback, talking about oligarchs and we can't have big money billionaires involved in politics. Where were you for 4 years, Bern? I don't remember Bernie calling out Zuckerbucks in the 2020 election. I don't remember him ever calling out Soros being involved with all these prosecutor races. Oh, now a prominent billionaire is on the other side and others are suggesting? Now it's a problem again. But Rob, Elon Musk is massively unpopular. Doge is massively unpopular. Is it? According to what? The same polls that said Joe Biden was 50-50? That Kamala was going to win? Those polls are saying it? Really? Wow. Really? Yeah, I saw the Harvard Harris says that Trump's up. I saw a town hall where Republicans were yelling. Sure, some people are going to be pissed. And? You might not like some of the things that Trump says or Elon Musk says. You might not like them. You might not even like some of the specific things they're doing. But the general idea of the government is way too big and is wasting our money is popular amongst the American people. The Democrats aren't offering a counter vision to that. It's not like the Democrats were like, yes, we agree. We've been running on shrinking the size of government for years. They haven't. As a matter of fact, neither have the establishment Republicans. So now when someone gets in there, all it is attack the messenger. We don't like Trump. We don't like Elon. Yeah, there's ways. We'll deal with that legislatively. You haven't. You never do. U.S. aid was actually saving us money. Hogwash. Comes from the same neocon school. Oh, actually, if we overthrow governments around the world and we send all this money gets kicked back to people in this country that are voters, that actually saves the American people money. That may have been true in the 70s. The problem is none of these policies are actually benefiting the American worker. But inflation's gone up. 6 weeks? First off, as far as I'm aware, the data on inflation that we have, which is month to month, hasn't even came out from February yet. I could be wrong about that. But the first month that everyone was yelling about inflation literally stopped like January 12th, which was still Biden's data. Secondly, the numbers were manipulated anyways during the Biden administration. Now they're going to jack them up for Trump and say, look, Trump caused it. I'm not saying inflation won't go up somewhat under Trump. For example, if Trump sends everyone $5,000 checks, would inflation go up? Yeah. But if he sends them that because it was taken away, that exact number was taken away from sending it to a bunch of overseas projects and kickbacks, it'll still benefit the American more, even though I'm against sending those checks. Same with tax cuts. Tax cuts, oh, but it benefited the millionaire class. True. It also benefited middle income people. Yes, the people that pay more in taxes will benefit more from cutting taxes. But people that pay little in taxes also benefit from cutting taxes. But Trump said inflation would be taken care of day one, and the Ukraine war would be taken care of day one. Yes, politicians oversell shit all the time. Yep. That's what happens. If you elect me, you'll have the greatest economy ever. Oh, Obama! It was only the third greatest economy ever. Liar! I don't expect deflation under Trump. What I expect, what you hope for, is the rate of inflation to slow and for wage growth to outpace it. Unlike under Biden, where we saw very little to no real wage growth compared to inflation. That's what you like to see. You don't care if milk goes up $1 a gallon if everyone's making $5 an hour more. What you care about is if milk goes up $2 a gallon and you're only making 5 cents more. Yeah, the four Fed rate cuts certainly had a great deal to do with it. They knew that they were trying to help Biden out short term with the rate cuts that would ultimately have the consequences of rebounding inflation. Yep, the inflation rate, using the last numbers we have, which are Biden numbers, are above 3%. Yes. Now let's move on to the Ukraine situation, which we've talked about a lot lately. But Trump said nice things. He says he wants to enter into an economic agreement with Russia. The United States refused to sign the U.S. resolution condemning Russia. Yes, virtue signaling bullshit while you're negotiating to stop a war isn't important. If Trump's talking to Putin and says, yeah, we're not going to sign that bullshit, it's a sign of good faith that we want these negotiations to go well. And we'll look at entering into an economic agreement with you. But here's the ask we have of you ending this conflict in Ukraine. I'm all for it. I say stop the meat grinder in Ukraine. I say I correctly predicted years ago how this conflict would end. Whether it be through an administration like Trump or whether it go on for 20 years through neocon, neolib policies. Inevitably, Ukraine would be left high and dry, and it would have been the people of Ukraine that died and suffered the most. That's why I'm for trying to prevent causing conflicts in the first place, and then trying to do as much as possible to mitigate them and to end them as soon as possible. As opposed to the neocon, neolibs that are like, no, keep the war going as much as possible. They're fighting for their country. Great. Then I guess they don't need to conscript anyone, right? Oh, wait, they are conscripting people. They have every right. I keep seeing Europe saying, we're not gonna leave Ukraine high and dry. If the United States backs out, we'll fund them. Great, problem solved. I saw Zelensky say something like that the other day. I've already talked to European allies. If the United States backs off, they're going to fill in the gaps. Sounds like a win-win. Have at it. There you go. I'm not telling Ukraine they don't have the right to fight. They can fight any way they see fit. No problem here. Same with Israel-Palestine as far as I'm concerned. Not our business. But the idea that we have to perpetually send money from our country, why is it always, by the way, it's always the middle class and lower class that have to sacrifice. Under COVID, it was the middle class and lower class that have to sacrifice. Rich were doing very well. They're doing great. Hell, they didn't even abide by the own rules that they were enforcing on us. I remember writing something for John Burke's website back in 2022 when the whole Ukraine thing started, I think 2022. And I was like, here we go again. It's time once more for Americans to tighten their belts. We got to suffer more, this time to help the noble people of Ukraine. I say no. There's an awful lot of celebrities, etc., that are very, very concerned about Ukraine. How about pull your money and send it? There's a lot of tough guys. Ukraine's taking troops. Go fight. Who's stopping you? Have at it. No problem. Right? Oh, wait, no. You want everyone else to pay for it. You want the Ukrainian young men to die. You want the working class in this country to have to keep paying that shit. Sorry. And I'm sick and tired. I blame Russia. I don't like Putin. I hope Ukraine wins tomorrow. I don't like Ukraine as far as the leadership there. I don't. For reasons I've talked about. Don't care for them. But I still hope that they kick Russia out immediately, win the war, Putin gets overthrown, peace, yay. Great. That's what I would like to happen. It's not realistic, but that's what I would like to have happen. But the idea that we have to perpetually, what's the end goal here? I keep hearing these people saying, actually, Russia slowed down. So then what's the end goal? Can anyone explain it? Ukraine's going to run out of bodies before Russia. Then what? Are we sending U.S. troops? Are we sending NATO troops? Because that's World War III. What's the goal here? No, we just keep it. It's almost like, it's the same with the COVID policies. Like shit or get off the pot. You really want to say Russia went too far? Then fuck it, declare war, right? No, we're not going to do that. Instead, we'll send just enough money and weapons that it benefits all sorts of corrupt oligarchs, it benefits defense contractors in the United States, and it's just enough to keep basically a perpetual stalemate that results in the massive loss of lives of young Ukrainian men and young Russian men. But we're not going to actually do enough to tip the scale for Ukraine. Yeah, there aren't going to be long-term security guarantees because Ukraine is losing. What's Russia's long-term security guarantee? That there won't be biolabs adjacent to their country ran by the United States. That NATO won't continue to expand. That they're not going to overthrow neighboring countries like they did in 2014 in Ukraine. Like they're doing in Syria with Russian allies. What's the guarantees there? I don't like Russia. I blame Russia predominantly for the conflict. But it's naive to say that the West didn't have anything to do with provocations. Remember that debate I had with Dylan Burns on the eve of the Biden-Trump administration or election? And I was like, what exactly is the United States doing in Syria here? So let me get this straight. We're aligned with Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, and we're there to fight ISIS. And we're with the Free Syrian Army, with the Kurds, with Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, fighting ISIS. Assad's fighting ISIS. But we're also helping to fight Assad. And even if ISIS is wiped out, we can't leave because our allies, the Turks, where we station nuclear weapons, that we're in a NATO alliance with, will commit genocide with our ally, the Kurds. If it's just about fighting ISIS, let's get in there, kick ISIS's ass, and leave. Why are we bombing Assad? And I went through this whole rigmarole, and I was like, don't you think, Dylan, that this is a provocation to Russia? He said, that's okay. Screw him. Worked out well, didn't it? And that's the attitude. Who cares if we provoke Russia? Nothing bad will happen. Oh my God, they invaded Ukraine. It's not our fault. We didn't do anything to provoke them. But anyways, we got to keep the war going until we get security guarantees for Ukraine. Okay, what's that look like? Because it looked like Boris Johnson and the West sabotaged peace negotiations 2 years ago. So what was the security guarantees? To join NATO? You think Russia's going to accept that? They're currently in the better position in this conflict. Why would they give that up? Sure, come on in. Let's make Ukraine a NATO country so that they can proceed once more to expand further to the east. And now, if Russia does anything, they're now at war with the entire Western world. I'm sure Russia will accept that. Sounds like a smart plan. How would we feel about that? How if Russia puts biolabs in Mexico, and Russia and China and Mexico start a military alliance geared towards facing off against the United States, and they bring Mexico into it? How would the United States feel about that? I'll tell you how they'd feel. They wouldn't accept it. Does that mean we'd be justified to invade Mexico? Probably not. I'm not saying Russia are the good guys. I have no love for Vladimir Putin. They're predominantly to blame for the invasion. They're the ones who invaded. But it's naive to treat it like it's just Lord of the Rings and Putin's Sauron and they're the orcs. It's absurd. And fuck Zelensky for the death of Gonzalo Lira. But he was a bad guy. Maybe so. He was an American. Our allies who depend on us for their survival imprisoned an American citizen for the crime of free speech. Then when he tried to flee the country, they arrested him where he died in prison. There hasn't even been an apology by the Ukrainian government. But did you see some of his content? No! But he was a stooge for Russia. I don't care. He was American. Lastly, some criticisms of me lately that have been offered. Some of them were on the Ukraine stuff. We'll talk about that. Someone pointed out, and I went back and watched this. It's totally true. Sometimes I'll get bored and I'll read the comments on some of my videos, particularly the debates. Someone pointed out, when I started talking to Pisco, like if you watch, I grab a drink, and if you watch my hand, it's like this. It's a good catch. It was like that. And it's like that for two reasons. Probably because I was heated and yelling. My mouth got super, super freaking dry when I was talking to Pisco. My water was out. And so I grabbed a beer. That's all that was in my cooler. So I actually drank one beer. That and with my back killing me, which that was a long stream, so my back was killing me. So I think, yeah, adrenaline plus the dry mouth and my back. I was got the little... But I will show you this. This is from years of being an alcoholic. Look at my hand. I can't hold it like super steady. It's... don't drink, kids. That's what happens when you become an alcoholic. So it's one of the reasons I'm not the best shot. Like, I'm a little... I'm so sorry. Yeah, so there was a shake. That person nailed it. There was a handshake. Go back and watch it. Smoke weed instead. No thanks. Oh, the Eric Roberts stuff. I'll talk about that at the end here. So that's number one. Other criticisms of me that I heard. Just the general stupidity of like, well, if you're saying that us on the left didn't criticize corruption, well, now you're not, so you don't have a voice. Bullshit. I tried to enter good faith discussions for 7-8 years now. Over and over, these people downplayed the corruption, didn't want to talk about it. It was whataboutism. Okay. Now they lost. Deal with it. I didn't set the standard. My standard doesn't matter. The standard was set by the Democrats. That's who said it. The establishment set the standard. It's okay. How many times did you hear when I debate someone like Pisco? The bar for opening an FBI investigation is very low. Okie dokie. Dems to standards. Hear any rumors that the Democrats are up to anything with foreign nationals? Send the FBI, Kosh. Get him, Dan Bongino. The bar for opening an investigation's very low. So I don't care about those voices that are saying that. I don't care at all. I'll continue to debate people when I feel like it. But I don't care. Why don't we get those institutional advantages, giving them overwhelmingly to populist causes through USAID, the IRS, the EPA, the FBI, do a little illegal spying on our opponents? How about we get that for the next 20, 25 years? Then we'll talk about even Stevens, right? Of course, I've always been against that, even when they were targeting people on the left, like Vietnam War protesters, or Martin Luther King, or Malcolm X. I haven't changed. I've always been against corrupt bureaucrats abusing their power. Yeah, I'm a fan of Dan Bongino. We talked about him earlier in this stream. Do I sometimes raise my voice and insult people in ways that go too far? I get that a lot. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm of two minds on it. But it's a fair criticism. Maybe I should be more even-keeled, like this. Actually, I think you're wrong about the corruption. You didn't really discuss it previously, and I'm not interested in discussing it with you. I guess, but this is how I talk in real life, so... Okay, I said an hour, so we got a couple minutes left. Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts is Julia Roberts' brother. He's an actor I happen to like. I'm a Eric Roberts fan. He was on this season of Celebrity Rehab. Now, sometimes my wife and I, we have disparate taste in what we like to watch. So I like, action movies and sports and stuff like that. My wife will do some of that, but she watches other stuff. She's more into like serial TV shows. So one of the things we'll do that we've agreed on is like mindless, sort of like a certain type of reality TV, like Bar Rescue or Ink Master. Years and years ago, on our TV, just as background noise, was Celebrity Rehab. And on this particular season, Eric Roberts was on it. And I'm not really watching. I'm just kind of half tuned in. And at one point, Eric Roberts sits down with Dr. Drew. If you've never seen Celebrity Rehab, here's the premise. Dr. Drew, the sort of celebrity doctor that used to do a show, Loveline with Adam Carolla, he brings a bunch of celebrities that have substance problems or other problems into one house, and they do like reality TV show type stuff, and then he sits down and talks to them about their problems, and they try to solve the problems. Anyways, Eric Roberts sits down with Dr. Drew in one of these episodes and is talking about how he's addicted to marijuana and maybe cocaine. I don't know. But he's explaining it, and he starts to get emotional. He's talking about how often he does this and how it's dominating his life. And this is mean to say because I am a fan of Eric Roberts, but it did make me chuckle. I laughed at it because he's crying and he's like, I feel great shame. There's something about the way he said it. that me and my wife started picking on each other. And we would always say that. My wife would be like, did you take the garbage out? I'd be like, I feel great shame. Eric Roberts level of shame. And me and my wife chuckled. Well, after like 6 months of that, somehow it proliferated into our circle of friends, where you'd be out and they'd be like, did you put more beer in the cooler? Oh, I feel Eric Roberts level of shame. What the fuck are you talking about? Eric Roberts shame? Oh, I saw this Celebrity Rehab and this scene came up. The scene is impossible to find. I cannot find this damn scene, and I have this one friend that's been shitting on me for years, claiming that I made this entire scenario up. So today, once more, he texted me that it was bullshit, that I'd made it up. And so here I am, 11, 12 years after the fact. I went to X and I asked my audience for help in finding this. Now, I think we've narrowed it down that it's season 4 of Celebrity Rehab, and it's probably between episodes 4 and 7 on season 4. My friend Drone Tech thinks, based on descriptions that he's read, that it's probably episode 6 of season 4 of Celebrity Rehab. The problem is I don't have cable. So my options would be to purchase the season for like 18 bucks on Amazon, which I'm not prepared to do right now. Or I could purchase like each episode for $2, but I'm also not prepared to do right now. So I threw it out there. I didn't know if anyone had if you have a cable package, you could find it, torrents and stuff like that. I don't mess with that shit though. And so I didn't know if anyone had the clip, but I assure you, if someone finds the clip, it's going up on my shorts on YouTube. We're going to put it up there, and that'll be the end of the debate forever. It'll be there. That's that. So that's what happened with the Eric Roberts. If you saw my weird tweet, what it was about. So there you have it. That was my Eric Roberts shtick. Yeah, that's the show for today. I got some stuff I got to take care of here. I'll try to stream tomorrow. We're going to try to do nightly streams around 7 for an hour. Wednesday night, it just depends. I'll be honest. I'll tell you all what's happening. I have to work late Wednesday, and then a family friend was put in a hospital, and I'm going to try to go visit them Wednesday as long as I get off work at a reasonable time. But because I'm looking to get off work around 6, by the time I get to the hospital to visit that friend and I'm leaving, I'm probably looking at getting home probably close to 9 o'clock. And at that point, because I won't have seen my family all week, I'll probably just hang out with my family until we go to bed that night. So you'll probably hear from me Thursday. One thing I do want to say, so I'm working with my producer Black Elk, and we're coming up with ideas for what to do with our show. One of the big ideas that he sort of is spearheading is the idea that we're going to do debate reviews. And we have several ideas of how to do it. The idea that I think's winning out right now is we'll take like 20 minutes to a half an hour of a debate. I'll watch that debate offline, record it, my reaction to that section, send that recording to Black Elk, who will then edit in the actual debate that I'm watching, and that's how we'll do it. But we're also considering doing it live. If I do it live, though, the key is I won't be able to interact with the audience because we're trying to have it professional and stand on its own thing. It could be any kind of debate. Any. So what I'm asking is, if people go to my Discord or if you comment on my channel, those of you that are members, if you send me a up to 20-minute clip of any type of debate that you would like me to review, all I'm asking is that you either do it underneath one of my videos, comments on YouTube, or on my Discord. You have to be a member. Send the 20-minute clip or just timestamp the 20 minutes that you want. But also be sure to send me the full video as well. So if it's a 4-hour debate and you say, I want you to look at starting at 2 hours, 10 minutes, 30 seconds to 2 hours, 20 minutes, 30 seconds. That's fine. But I'll need the full clip as well, because obviously you want to give credit to whatever video that you are analyzing. So Jay Dyer stuff, anything's good. It could be serious debates, it could be funny debates, it could be historical debates. I can't promise I'll get to all of them, but we're trying to work out the format. So like I said, I got some new cameras, mics that are coming. We're going to try to get things set up in a positive way to ensure that the quality is going to be higher. That's sort of the idea. We're going to try to line up debates. I'm going to try to start communicating with some people. I think my debate opportunities are lessening because the left realizes they just get their ass kicked, and so they have to resort to faking tweets and spurging out and all that shit, getting my Twitch channel banned and stuff. Yeah. So if I can't do that, then I'll do the next best thing, which is collaborate with all sorts of people, including right-wing people. So I'm in talks with people at the Crucible to do a weekly show with them, or maybe a monthly show, and in talks with some other people. I'm also in talks with my former radio show colleague, Todd Bartley, who does know some of the people that run Dan Bongino's show. And so I don't think I'm near the level of Dan Bongino as far as reach or anything like that, obviously. But I'm definitely trying to make it known to people on a higher scale that I am available and would be interested in doing a big show like that. So that's ultimately the goal with where I'm going. I love my job here now, but it's getting hard working as many hours as I am. So it is what it is. Rob GPT, debate analysis. I think we're just, and you can also send me names for the debate show. So far, we've just got Debate Coach Rob, but whatever you guys, whatever the Norberters come up with. So I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a nice little show, and it'll be different. Also, we're trying to do, Black Elk's been prolific in how much he's putting out. If you go to the YouTube channel, which obviously you're all on YouTube right now, you can see how many videos Black Elk's putting up. He's getting fantastic. You have to understand, Black Elk started doing this totally pro bono just because he wanted practice editing. And he's killing it. Like, I think that his edits are good. Like, if you go back and you watch the debate I had with Connor, every time Connor makes that particular homophobic slur that got us banned on Twitch, Black Elk beeped it out and edited in a British cigarette, which I thought was pretty clever. His thumbnails are getting better. He's outpacing me on his skill set, so I'm trying to make up for it by getting some better technology to make his job better. But I think Black Elk's going to be an editor, if he wants to, for a bigger show. And I couldn't be happier. I'm going to lose Black Elk one day. He's going to call me and he's going to say, hey, man, I'm really sorry, but actually I got an offer to go edit for Steven Crowder. And I'm going to be, dude, don't apologize to me. Kick ass, man. That was the whole point. So I'm thrilled that how great he's been. He's doing a ton of work. And so look for him to be he's putting those videos up like once, twice a day, almost every day. I'm going to try to put shorts up like at noon every day, 1 or 2. I put 2 shorts up today. We're looking into sort of things. Some of the shorts aren't going to be political in nature. I'm reading that one of the ways to grow your channel is to talk about trending topics. I'm not going to talk about just anything, but anything that I have an interest in. If it's a particular movie or something, or a particular sporting event, cultural thing, I might put a short up on that. But the key is to have the algorithm seeing that I'm putting stuff up on a consistent basis. Mass debate with Rob Noor. Not bad. So there you go. And between that and collaboration with Andrew, I also want to collaborate with some other people. I talked to Lactoid. I think it'd be fun to do a show with Lactoid once a month. EOD and me talked about doing a show. I think that would be fun. I think that I want to bring back the idea. If you remember way back in the day, there's probably not many of you from this. We used to do the, the Patriot Hour, it was called. And it was me and Drone Tech, Sarah Kane, American Joe, Doug Dakota, Adam and Sitch, it's a weird relationship I have with Adam and Sitch. I'll do Adam and Sitch show. I don't mind them at all. But I've offered to go on and talk about certain things, and they're like, eh. So I guess they'll get in touch with me when they have a topic they think's right for me. But it would be nice to sort of bring in a collaboration of good right-wing streamers. I would love to do a show. Remember, Jim Bob had a panel show, and I was on it once. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, they'll be the thing about me is I'll clash with some of that Crucible crowd and audience because I'm not a Christian nationalist. And ultimately, they'll start talking about taking away women's right to votes and, keep the gays off television or something, and I'll be like, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I agree with you. The LGBT shit's got way too far, but so that's sort of you'll get me, Jordan. Maybe someday, yeah. But that's sort of the idea. I want to do that, and I still have the other thing that's a long shot, but I'm still trying to get back into the radio show business. And the reason for that is I think there is room to combine the right-wing traditional radio public with the new right-wing online business, you know? And I think that if we could get a network of good right-wing online streamers, that really not only helps our chance to help influence culture and politics, but also I think it'll help all of our channels and send a signal to the Republican Party, and particularly to the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, that these are the things that they should actually be putting time and energy behind. Because, not to brag, but I think a show like mine shows like we can have fun, we're reasonable people, we have strong political viewpoints, we're not the monsters that we're painted as, we're willing to have open discussion, and we're reaching a different audience that a lot of the sort of traditional forms of Republican media aren't reaching. And so I think that it's a good idea to be doing that. So I'm going to do my best to try to be reaching out. And who knows, you know, I'm still working a ton of hours at my job. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But if it ever becomes positive or possible to move on to doing the streaming stuff full time, I think that I would be well positioned to be someone in the middle of that, because I think I collaborate well with people. I think that I have a good mix of being a good host, being a good moderator, being a good debater, being able to do a show on my own, being able to have fun. I think that I do those things quite well, and so that I would be well positioned to be someone that could help facilitate bringing a bunch of voices. I think the show should have something to do with food or you eating something. Possibly. As a big fat guy. I did have the guy that ran my campaign, Tom, he had like a YouTube show that was basically just him and his friends, and they never really promoted it, so it would only be like a dozen people, and it wasn't live. But they would do stuff that would just be drafts, so it'd be like 4 of them, and they would draft the top 20 best hockey players, and they would each take turns drafting, and then they'd have a team of 5, and they would argue whose team was best. One of the ones they did was the top 5 meats. So they each drafted a team of 5 meats. I was entertained by that. I thought it was interesting watching grown men argue about corned beef versus pepperoni, you know. To me, it was fun. But I don't know how well suited I am for that as a fat guy. I'd be like, I'll eat them all. Blah. But, alrighty. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate all of you. I really do. I'm going to head out now. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow night. Like I said, I'm not sure. Wednesday. Be checking out my YouTube channel for the non-live videos that'll be coming out sporadically throughout the day. I think 8 a.m. we're always going to have one. Around noon we're always going to have a short. And then there might be bonus material throughout the week. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all probably tomorrow night. Obviously, there's a caveat of work stuff could come up, and then I won't be able to talk. But hopefully it's then.